All set? Cool. Okay, it's 9 o'clock. I'll call this Waupaca County Park and Rec Committee meeting to order. Roll call shows we have one absent. This meeting and all other meetings of this committee are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the media in accordance with Wisconsin statutes, so the citizenry may be aware of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting. We need a motion to approve today's agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Everybody should have had the minutes from our previous meeting sent to them. We'll need a motion to approve the minutes unless there's some adjustments needed.
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any public comment, John?
I have none. Unless you're public.
I can say on behalf of the highway department, thank you to the parks department for letting us use their tractor this spring for planting trees and doing all the stuff we had to do at our mitigation site. Use their four-wheeler, they gave us a bunch of fence from the fairgrounds, so it really worked out for our mitigation site. So it was a good team effort on behalf of both departments. That was it.
Thanks. Yeah, and it's great when different departments can work together because we're all working for the same people, so.
Yeah, that was very fortunate that you guys could use some of that old fence and stuff and. Yeah,
Saves the money
That's
even
just a
better.
positive thing, because being in Waupaca, all the grief we got over the fence. I'm sure you guys came along and made it all look good.
yeah. Yep.
Okay, review and approve capital budget report.
All right, so the handout I'm gonna have you guys looking at first, the non-color one, so the first 2 pages of that, on the top, it says draft July 2024. This is the capital list. I mean, there's a lot more behind all these things in the program that finance uses. I like using this sheet just because it spells it out all in front of you. And what I also included was the draft 2023 one, so last year's sheet of the same thing. So you can kind of see what changed over the year here, and I'll go through line by line here and kind of talk about each thing so that we so I can let you know what we pushed around and we get your opinion on these things. Nothing's final, obviously, you know, so if you guys have a differing opinion on what some of this stuff is, we got a couple major things that I tweaked on this time, so want to get your opinion on those too, but I'll get to that in a little bit. So I'll start at the top of the first page there, the 2024 one, and just kind of give you a recap of some of the things from last year. So the first thing, it says budget there, so that's not actually a capital project. I just put them on this list as well so that we can keep track of it all in one place. We had $5,000 set aside for a new judges stand by the horse arena. We were working with the horse arena group, or the horse group there, the 4-H horse group, to try and come up with a design that they all agreed to was acceptable. The one thing they want to do is move it to a different location so they're more centered between the two arenas or whatever. But we've been doing this for like 3 years now, and they keep changing their mind on what they think is acceptable. And you know, a new person will be in charge of the horse group and they'll be like, oh no, we don't want anything like that. We want something like this. So we haven't spent that money the last several years. We just roll it over and be like, okay, well, let's see what they come up with. Well, now we're waiting until after fair, this month. And then we're gonna reach out to them again and say, hey, are you guys good with what you're planning on doing now? You know, because our plan was to buy materials. At one point, they had somebody that was gonna build it. I don't know if that's still the case. Then the first time we set aside money for it, they came back with a plan that was like a garage with a deck on top, and it was like, well, that's gonna be like $40,000 to build, you know, so we don't have that kind of money. So they came back with a little more reasonable plan, but now we're waiting for a final just to make sure that they're all on the same page. They'll have time to talk about it over fair and hopefully we can move forward with that. If not, we just won't spend that money. Cause I don't know, it's probably been 5-6 years ago now that you guys redid that, put a new floor in it and used tin on the outside of it so that it looks okay and whatnot, it's functional, so they've got something that works right now.
How long are you gonna be able to move that money forward? How many years is she gonna allow you to do that?
Well, it's just a matter of, we just requested new each year, so it's just like we just didn't spend it, so it's up to you guys to approve a budget, you know, and that will be in it. Well, I don't think we didn't put it in for next year, so if they don't do it this year, we're like, okay, we'll worry about that some other time, so.
Okay, so it's budget, not capital outlay.
Right. Okay. Yeah, they get a little more irritated when you're in the capital budget, cause they manage that. So yeah, that's just a small thing there. Everything that's labeled equipment there is basically, they consider that like one line on the capital. So like all of our replacement of trucks and all that stuff, is just goes under this equipment, and we got a spreadsheet in there that shows all of our equipment and when we're planning on replacing it, and we have a rotation we try and stick to for a lot of our equipment, like we get like 10 years out of a truck. And it goes through different phases. When we first get a new truck, one of our full-time staff gets it for the first 6-8 years or something like that, and then it goes down to a seasonal truck, you know, and we use it that way, and then we get rid of it eventually. So I'll just go through this. So this year we had a 16-foot tandem trailer, purchased that, we have that. Nice trailer. We ordered right away this year, a 3/4 ton pickup truck, like all of our other service trucks there, with a service body, lift gate and all that stuff. Ordered it, or put it out to bid, I think, boy, that was February or something, we put it out to bid. And the truck is done, the truck. They're waiting on the service body, and we got it through Clock out of New London there. And they had it on their ground somewhere. They're waiting for the service body to arrive over at Olson Truck and Body. And then once that comes in, they were gonna send it over there and get that done. So by the end of the year, we should have that pickup truck. We got the zero turn mower early on this year. That worked out well. The fairground roof, we bid that out. It's been awarded. The company was supposed to do the roof this week. Probably not happen until after fair now. So we're just gonna tell them, hey, you're gonna have to do it after fair. So we can't have them any closer to fair than they are now. So fairgrounds fence and gate upgrades, that was a 2-year project. We just rolled over and did it all at once. So there was 90,000 altogether there. Put that fence in, and that's all done, and it looks good. Even got a lot of complaints when it was happening, you know, oh yeah, you didn't need that, blah, 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 but boy, it sure looks nice now, you know, and when you seen all that fence rolled up in a pile, you realize how rusty it was, you know, it's just like, it was pretty rough, so. Looks good out at Lakeview though, Casey. Yeah. Whatever you call it now. Fairground fence, HVAC, we replaced some of the stuff up in our shop there, and by Manawa. That's all done, and I don't know, you think the humidity stuff's working?
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be better, a lot better airflow through there on both sides, even the one where hazmat uses it, so.
We used to in the little break room, training room or whatever there between hazmat and our shop. The tables would get a layer of mold on them during the summer, you know, just cause it was so humid in there all the time. Which is probably really good for you, you know, so we're like, we gotta do something about that. So this moves a lot more air through there, and I think it's working. I haven't been up to the shop much, but. Fairgrounds, rabbit barn, replacing some rotten posts, we bid that out, got quotes and everything on that, and then, I think he started what,
Yesterday, so promised he'd be done by the end of the week. got no choice.
Yeah.
There's gonna-
Yeah.
He better be done.
Yeah, the guy I sent over said, man, I couldn't guarantee that we'd get it done by the fair time. That's why they didn't take it.
So we got Muck Constructions doing that. He kinda, I don't know, he comes out of retirement every time we put something out there. So, I was like, okay, if you can get it done, I guess. And then, so that's coming along. The White Lake Dam repairs and channel dredge, these guys, Parks guys have done, all the prep they can do. They've got the new great thing that you walk across that's also serves as a carp screen, for the back of there. It's ready to go. I've been working on the permit stuff and it's been going slow. Gotta get a dredging permit. And then like, in the middle of the dredging pre-application that I filled out, they said I gotta talk to somebody about water discharge permit. Because when you pull that old cattails out of there, water's gonna leak out of them. So, I was like, okay, who do I gotta talk to? So I've been going back and forth and I'm not getting very good response out of them. I'm gonna call some people here soon and try and find out if there's someone else I can deal with, cause I'm not getting response back from that. I thought maybe, cause I started that discharge permit when right before our network interruption thing happened, and I thought, well, maybe some emails got lost and whatnot, so. But I'm still not getting any response from them, so. Gonna try a different angle on that one, but once I can get the permits and stuff, hopefully we can get that dug out. I don't know if the landowners there are gonna be too happy about us doing that in the fall, cause I think the reason they
Big hunter.
bought that property is for hunting, so we may end up pushing that project into next year. This year has been crazy for high water too. It'd be kind of nice to do when the water level's a little lower. Then we can get all that stuff out of there and
Will it be done in the winter when things are frozen or is it?
possibly, I mean, I think they could certainly dig all that stuff out in the winter and it'd probably be good for that dike that you gotta drive back in there.
Yeah.
If that was frozen, but I'm not sure. If we did it in winter, it'd have to be like probably after bow season or whatever. I don't know what all hunting they do out there. So, January, February kind of thing. Either way, it'd probably be rolling into next year, so. But yeah, I gotta get the permits finalized and then hopefully we can get in there and get that done. But like I said, we don't wanna irritate our neighbors. Otherwise, we gotta figure out our weird access that goes around their property. So we don't wanna do that. So that's coming. So that gets us to next year, which is really the year that matters for the capital projects. Every other year is just kind of a guess that they kind of do a little planning based on those numbers we throw out there for the 5-year capital plan. But the next year is the one that's real. That's the one where they actually have to have money, find money to pay for this stuff. So I'll go through what this list is and then I'll show you what changed. So first few things are replacements for equipment we have. We have another pickup truck that will be replacing, I'm not even sure which year one it is,
17.
a 17.
Yep.
So that's coming up and then let's see. The boom mower and this tractor kind of go together. So this tractor is our New Holland tractor, 4-wheel drive, 60 horsepower-ish tractor. We're looking to get a new version of that before we have problems with the old version. And the good thing about that is you get quite a bit back when you sell those things. It goes back into the capital fund. So selling that equipment before it's broken is a real good idea for the county financially, so. But that tractor gets used for all sorts of things. One of the things we use it for quite a bit is we put a boom mower on it. And the boom mower we got when we bought that tractor the first time, so that was. I should have brought the equipment list along. I don't remember what year that tractor was.
13, I think, 12 or 13.
Yeah, so we've had it for a while. It's still working fine, but it's one of those things where if we can replace them before they start breaking, we're money ahead.
Is that a roller blade? It's not a.
Yeah, it's a flail kind, that's got the little.
Also, it's a roller. It's not a flail then.
No, it's, that's
Well,
other style.
Yeah, they call them flails though. It's got the
the
little.
2 teeth that come down
Yeah.
and they split.
Yep.
And there's lots of rolls of them.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, so it's a marginally safer version, you know, than the big old, you know, rotary ones. So when we wanna replace that boom mower that we have, we get one that mounts on a 3-point, so we can take it off and use the tractor for other things. Like Highway has several that are underslung, you know, so then you got the count, which is nice, you got the counterweights and everything, and the boom's right next to you, you can see what you're doing without breaking your neck all day long looking back, but it's just for what we do, it's nice to be able to take that thing off of there relatively easily. So we learned a few things when we bought that last one. The one we have doesn't have any kind of breakaway feature, you know, we're just, you know, fortunately haven't broken the arm off of there. You catch a big rock or something where you're tootling along, and the one we got now will just bend the boom, you know, if you don't stop soon enough. So they make them so they just break away if you hit something solid. So we wanna have something like that. And then we've had a few other issues with that. The one we bought, you can't find parts for, is made in Italy somewhere, and you just, yeah, it's been a pain. Even buying filters and stuff for it. It's been hard. So those are the replacement things we've got on there. The next thing on here is a brush chipper. So we were looking at you know, a go behind chipper, there you go. You know, it's just one of these ones, not quite as big as like Highway's got, you know, the double axle and stuff, but it would be way better than what we've got. And it's I don't know, the one that you guys are looking at had a gas engine in it.
Yep.
Stuff,
72 horse gas.
yep, and it would handle pretty much everything we do, and boy, we sure find a lot of times it would be real handy to get those. And if we have a big storm come through or something, Highway's already using theirs, the rental places, you know, unless you're there, like, boom, you know, you can't hardly get theirs, and then theirs are kinda. The one place in town there, they got a little bit bigger one, but you guys are saying that's still a little small?
Yeah, it's a size below that one,
Yep.
it's their biggest. And even after this storm that came through Manawa, that day that they were calling me to use the fairground, I was on the rentals trying to get ahead of the game. I rented that following week, and
Yep,
boy, we put it through its paces.
yeah.
Sure beats hauling and trying to find a home for all that brush.
And there's so many places that we've got now that you can't just drag brush off into the side, you know, around the chain and stuff. These guys were doing some work out there and they made some brush piles. And man, we had so many calls, people like, wow, what the heck, you guys can't do that, you know, it's like, well, we can, it's our property, you know, we can pile brush, but. I mean, yeah, it's, when it's across from your house, it looks bad, you know, so, and then places like on the Tomorrow River State Trail, it seems like every time a tree falls on that trail, it's down in the bottom of the V. It's never where you can just chuck the stuff off to the side somewhere. It's always in the bottom of the V where you'd have to bring something out, and when you're hauling brush away, it's just a pain in the butt. So we're requesting a chipper for next year. Anything to add to that?
So then the chips, do you just leave them lay, basically, just blow them out there, or do you haul it to the, you have to put it in the?
Well, we've got options. We've got the little baby dump truck we've got that we probably pull that chipper with usually. You can tip that up and blow it right into that dump truck. If you're in a place where you can't just blow it into the woods, you know.
Right.
But if we're in on the trail and stuff, you can just, you know, blow it off to the side and it's gone, you know, we don't have to worry about it, so. It would save us a lot of time and headache, and I think we would probably do a little better job brushing. You know, when we have.
And stuff at the fairground, now, we used to try to burn every winter.
Mhm.
They had those big giant concrete blocks. So they let us use, the highway did, let us use a loader, and we made an area that if we get this thing, we can blow the chips in there, and we can either use them up on the grounds or let people come and take them if we get an excess of them. But they'll be contained in a concrete area.
Yep. And one of the things we did that was different is if you look on the last year's, the 2023 one, we had, what did I move from there? Oh, the 2025 here. The ski trail groomer rig, we had 52,000 set in there for that. And as you might have noticed, the last several winters have been pretty mild on that thing. We're not piling the miles on there, you know? So we feel we can easily push that down the road, and I pushed that down to, I think, 2030, you know? It's just, it's not getting very many hours on that thing. And it's so basically we took the spot that thing had in there last year and said, okay, we were gonna buy a chipper instead. So that's where that came from. Any other questions about the chipper before I
We
move
can
on?
only hope that we have record rain now, hope we don't have record snow.
Well, you know, even if we do, we're so far, you know, I mean, that thing's got very few hours on it and it's in really good shape. These guys take it apart every year and clean up the tracks and grease everything, and so it's pretty minty right now, you know?
Last year we used it once, right?
Well, I
Yeah.
think, yeah,
Well, we actually had the trail open for a full week, which is the most it's been in a couple of years. And we had users. And now we got a permanent spot, so
Yeah.
bring the snow on
Yeah.
because
You're
we
right.
actually have
Good.
a good trail base and we keep expanding it and it's only gonna get better.
yep.
I was just thinking you were jinxing us because
I know.
all the rain we've had.
I was gonna say, bring on the snow.
Well, yeah.
Well, you know, you need snow too, right? You know, you gotta pay your guys, you know, so. Yeah, it's one of those things, you don't want it, but you know, if it's gonna be winter, I'd just as soon have the normal snow where we can keep a trail going and. You know, otherwise, all that work you put into building the trail out there is kind of a big waste of time, you know, so.
But it was cool that we groomed it once and the park had just opened and there was no real advertisement and people found it.
Yep.
To cross-country ski on it and snowshoe and stuff, so.
Yeah, so there, we say we had ski tracks and fat tire bike tracks and snowshoes, so people were out there. And it was just a matter of if we get a decent snow year, I think a lot of people will find that place, so, and that's what we want people to find that and use it, so. Any other questions about equipment stuff? All right, and then the next one, the Keller Dam repairs, we had that in there last year as. Keller Dam bridge replacement. The idea was we were gonna do something about where the primary overflow is for the primary spillway for the dam. It's basically like a box culvert that's a bridge, you know? What we're looking at doing, why I changed that is. We need to fix the outflow of that dam, you know, where it rolls down the hill, everyone's like, oh, look at the pretty waterfall, there used to be a concrete apron there that contained that water that was coming down through there. Well, now the edges of that concrete apron have been eroded, there's big holes next to it, and it's eroding back towards the dam, which we don't want, you know, you wanna protect all that stuff, so, backing up a little, looking at the bigger picture is like, how are we gonna do those repairs? You know, like originally we were thinking, oh, we'll put, you know, either sandbag or they got those big tubes you fill with water that we could direct water to one side of that thing and then do the repairs on the one side and then do the same on the other side. But we still gotta do the downflow side with repairs as well. There is, in that dam, there's a culvert that comes out of the main section of the dam. There, you got the primary overflow where you see water going all the time. Then you got the secondary spillway where it flows over the road that's designed to be that way. In the middle of there's a curved part. If you look at it, most people don't even know that's part of the dam, but there's a curved part. That's the built up part of the dam. That's where the stream used to be. And there's a concrete wall in there. I think that's like 16 feet high or something, you know, up in the, under the road. And then they've backfilled on both sides. Well, there's a pipe that runs through there, probably a 24-inch culvert when it comes out. And according to the records, there's a 21-inch valve in there somewhere, you know, and all we know is it's 36 feet from the survey monument they have there. So, and if you look where that culvert's going, these guys were out there with a laser pointer or whatever, you know, and they were, if there's something solid in there, so there's probably still a gate in there. But how do you get to that gate? There was a valve box at some point, you know, yeah, so it's been there for what? I mean, they built it
8 years, yeah.
39 or something, you know, so, what was,
Was the road there then?
well, when they built the dam, it was,
You see, that's what I'm wondering, if they didn't just,
it's probably under the road is what we're thinking, you
it wasn't
know?
there at the time, yeah.
Yeah, they probably put something down and then just paved over top of it, you know? But, I mean, you wouldn't wanna operate that valve anyway, right? You know, cause if you were able to open it, you'd probably never get it closed again, but, my thought process here is, if we're gonna do all these dam repairs and in the future be able to maintain them and whatnot, it'd sure be nice to be able to open a valve and drain that down versus, you know, the only other options you got are bringing in these big pipes for the siphon basically over the embankment, then your road's closed the whole time and you can't do that, you know, without it. I mean, it costs a lot of money to do that. Why not do one project here where we try and find that thing, find out if we can repair, replace that valve and put in a new drain, you know, so we could run that water level down when you get a slow rain year, run that water level down and then do your repairs that you need to do and then bring it back up. So what I would like to do with this money we're setting aside is explore that option, bring somebody in that knows what they're talking about. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a dam specialist. Bring somebody in to say, can this be done? Can we replace this? And what would that cost, you know, and then if it's somewhat reasonable, we would have that money to do. If it's not, then we have to bring it back and say, hey, here's the monkey in the room, you know. Do we do a little patch job over here? Cause right now, theoretically, there's a valve in there that could be rotting away and might just open up someday, you know, like the rust will get through that plate that's in there or something, you know? And then we got a big drain in our bathtub, so what do we do? You know, so at some point, we're gonna have to deal with that. There's a small chance or a very good chance that it's all silted in, plugged up and it would never flow anyway, but you don't know. We don't know where the inlet is for that, or where the valve body is. We're gonna try and explore that, find it out.
Where it comes out, do you know where it
We
is?
know where it comes out and you can see up in there quite a ways.
Oh, yeah, we tried to take pole pruning poles and
Yeah.
connected them, and we only had 4 at the time, and you know, they're 8 foot long and we didn't touch it yet. And I shined a LED light in there. I can see something, but it's hard to judge how far back. So we
So,
tried to use a range finder.
yeah, could we
But-
rent one of those, it's for the sewer.
Sewer cameras.
Yeah, and I'll tell you exactly how many feet
Yep.
it is.
And that's what I was thinking is bring somebody in that does that sort of drain cleaning or something. They could run something up in there and tell us, you know, hey, that looks like it's a backside of a valve. I don't know, or maybe that culvert's collapsed in there.
Yeah.
We don't know. But if I assume that valve body's on the other side of that concrete wall, which would make sense. And then there would be some inlet to it. So, but we don't know. And I went back through our dam inspection sheets back to the 60s, you know, and everyone says in their sheet, did not observe valve, you know, or could not find valve or whatever, you know, and you know, so nobody in a long time has seen that or knows where that is. And anybody that did know where that is probably dead by now. You know, so
I don't know, I think. Yeah, and I'm just thinking ahead, lots of times they put them in, they ran a mill at one time, and maybe that's what that was for.
well, it was, you can see in the old pictures, I should have brought those with the old pictures.
Open and close gate mills when they were gonna run the mill.
Well, they had that culvert in there to relieve the pressure on the wall while they're building the dam, you know, so they had you can see pictures of it actually flowing out of that culvert when they had the backfill on there. So at some point, there was a valve on there that was functional after they backfilled, so what we'd like to do is address that. If we can find a way to either replace that valve or someone maybe come up with a better idea on how to use that, then we'd have a way to do the other repairs a lot cheaper, you know, cause once you bring in somebody, I don't even think you could do the sheet pile stuff because of all this rock up there, you know. You would have to do some major sandbagging or something to be able to just divert enough water so you could do the repairs that need to be done, so.
And I think it's an important enough, trying to find the right word for it, not an attraction, but a county spot, you know? Like this week, we have the, Keller Camp up there. And, you know, it's just a feature of Waupaca County that we should keep.
Yep.
And after what happened in Manawa, I think it's our responsibility to, you know, it's been a long time since anybody had a maintenance plan on it. I think it's time that we invest in that plan and try and maintain it for another 100 years or whatever.
Yep, and I think it just makes sense. I mean, could be a problem someday, you know, say that valve failed, you know. And then you have to do it, you know, and then you didn't plan for it. So it'd be nice to see if we can't do it a little proactively, find that valve or replace that valve somehow and go from there, so.
There's a trickle of water coming out of it.
Yeah, every now and then you get a little rusty water coming out of there, you know, so maybe it's already on its way out, I don't know. And with all the dam issues that have been around, you know, we have it inspected because it's a low risk. It's a large dam, but it's considered low risk because there's very little downstream. There's like one building. If that whole dam were somehow to miraculously disappear all at once, that big wave of water that went downstream, it would maybe reach one building downstream. There's like a Circle K campground used to be or something down there. They had a building, a pole shed that is in that footprint of where that wave would hit, but.
Circle J.
Circle J was above that. Though.
Yeah.
That's on the other end.
It was Circle something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. That's the only building in that whole flood shadow or whatever they called it, you know, so.
That's where I spent my summers.
Yeah, well, we've got the plan, we get it inspected by a professional engineer every 10 years or whatever, and then in between we inspect the dam, but. It is a problem, the erosion that's happening and the primary spillway, and as that's coming back towards that bridge, box culvert, whatever you wanna call it. If you look down that the pond side of that box culvert bridge. The stonework on there is leaning towards the pond. And it wasn't before, I'm pretty sure, you know, so it's being eroded along the bottom of that stuff, so as that erodes. You're getting more and more erosion behind it and eventually something's gonna fail, you know? So before we put a big old. You know, a ton of money on replacing that bridge or box culvert or whatever. We should address the other monkey to figure it out, so. Are you guys okay with that, changing that project? To dam repairs versus bridge specifically? Okay.
That was my question. You just explained it, so there.
Okay. Alright. Well, and then I'll just look at the 2023 version last year's and. I will, where I starred those things, I got stars on the copies, right? Yeah, okay. Where I put stars next to things, these are things that I moved. So. We already talked about the ski trail groomer rig. I didn't put a star next to that one, but the big things there, Keller Park new well restroom. What the plan there was years ago was to put a campground, build a bigger campground up at Keller Park. You know, use some of that land when you first come in on the inlet side, build a loop out there, put more sites, but in order to do that, you need another restroom and a well. So right now we got a little crappy artesian well out there that barely trickles, you know, but it's enough to be legal for a water source for a camp. That's why we have those 5 sites right there and they're so close together. It's because they have to be within 200 feet of that well or whatever, you know, so. That is as far away as we could get from that well and bathroom. So our plan was a number of years back to put in a well and a restroom 1 year and then the following year develop a loop and stuff. Well, I'm of the opinion that I think that is a huge. I think we're very underestimating how much a well is gonna cost up there. Cause it's all granite. And then 2, we'll have a new restroom, which we can get in within that, but. To build a campground loop, if you looked at the 2026 on that year, we had a Keller Campground Phase 2. We were gonna put in the start of another part of the campground. I think 150,000 isn't gonna get us very far trying to build a road in that mess. This is what you guys went through to put that little trail in, you know, and we were able to go up and down and around things, you know, if you had to put a loop in and a whole bunch of spurs off of that for campsites. It's gonna be incredibly expensive and then the other part of that consideration is. What we're doing now was running that little 5-site campground. It's probably on borderline acceptable, like, cause we're up there. You know, several times a week.
Oh, yeah.
But we're not there at night, you know, and we've had several bad apples now, you know, where you get a one group out there partying hardy and then it ruins it for everybody else. Where if you had like when I worked for Portage County, we always had somebody around, you know, 11:30 at night, you'd go through and do your checks to make sure everyone's behaving themselves. And then people were available if there was a problem, you could call and get somebody out there. Well, if there's a problem out there, a problem site like that, you know, short of people calling the sheriff's department, if they happen to have a deputy that could run up there and check it out, that's great, but they're kind of on their own, you know. So we've been getting some complaints on that. We've been getting some squatters out there. People not paying and just kind of, he had a really gross one there the other day. They were pooping right next to the campsite, you know, and just like, you know, and the bathroom's right there. And they didn't pay and, you know, so if we were to put a bigger campground in there, we would need to staff that differently. That's gonna have to be a focus. We would have to have somebody out there. And we're maxed right now, probably beyond maxed with what we're doing. So I guess I wanted to get the committee's opinion on, you know, is this something we kick down the road? Is this something we, you know, don't do at all? Is this something we, you know, or should we soldier ahead and see what happens? You know, I hate to go that route because once you open something up, you spend all this money. Like look at what we did at Victory, you know, we spent a lot of money over the years getting that ready to be a campground. You know, and then that had some other problems, you know, like, oh, you guys can't have a campground now, so. Whatever, I feel like we probably wasted a lot of money and time on that site trying to get a campground in and then it never came to fruition. Even if we had that, our staffing is inadequate, you know, so we would need to. There's a lot of cost that goes into that. That's why a lot of these private campgrounds, you see, you have like a couple hundred sites, they need to have that volume.
And a lot of those, if you look at Bear Lake, you see how they added on this last year and they're full.
Yep,
But along with that come electricity,
yep.
plumbing and everything with it. And
None
that's
of
what
which we
people
have.
like. Personally, I would leave Keller the way it is unique. I think it's a day park, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unique that way.
And
You got the other Castle Campground, you got,
and it's, what is it now? Kenny Lake Campground, they call it,
Yeah.
a new name? Yeah,
Yep.
and it's so close and they've just expanded. And put in a pond and jumpy pillows and I think that area has enough camping opportunities, you know, like Camp Victor Ray, it's sort of in the same situation with fleeces right there, so. And our concern, some of the concerns was that it would just end up being a spillover from fleeces,
Yeah, and look what they have to do, you know, they bring
Right.
in off-duty deputies and
Yeah.
stuff, you know,
yeah.
to try and keep people under control, you know.
Yeah, and I know we stuck a lot of money into making Keller a campground, but
Well, I think we have a pretty good plan for Victory, you know, as
Yep.
far as moving forward, like a shelter out there. I think that would be a really good use of that place, cause then it's still a day use place. It's still, you know, people could use it for, you know, weddings and things
Yeah.
like that, but
so I think instead of spending that money on expanding Keller, maybe we shift it to Vic or come up with a different plan, because, yeah, boring through granite, you know, well, that, you know,
Yeah.
for another 5 sites.
Well, exactly, and
Sites,
it,
and-
5 would not do, you know, you'd have to put in, you know, 40 sites, you know, and I remember when we put in those 5 sites, and we were handicapped a little there because we had to have it in this 200-foot circle or whatever. So we had to put sites here, even if they weren't the ideal site. That cost the county probably 20 grand to put those 5 pads in, you know, at the time. So $20,000 to develop a 5-site campground, you know, was probably not wise, you know, that being said, a lot of people have enjoyed it over the years. A lot of people, they really like it up there because it's quiet, you know, but then you get the one group of yahoos that gets up there and,
Yeah.
you know, and it ruins it, you know, so, I'm not saying we should stop having the camping we have. I'm just saying I don't think the county should invest a bunch of money into more right now,
Right.
you know.
I think the uniqueness of it, the way it is right now, is unique.
Yep.
I hate to see us lose that.
Yep.
I was born and raised in that place, so.
Yep. Have you been down that trail we built a couple of years ago, that little, yeah. I mean,
Take my family up there, show them where I used to hang out.
Yep.
All the time.
it's beautiful, you know, so,
I think we should focus more on that dam, make sure that doesn't do a
Right.
Manawa
Yep.
maneuver.
yeah.
From now on known as the Manawa maneuver.
Right, we're live, that's right.
Yeah,
That could take off.
nothing wrong with that, no, it just, stuff happens, you know, and especially the weather being what it is, you know.
Yes.
We were surprised, we had people up there right after the Manawa thing happened, we're like, we better get up there and check out Keller, and it wasn't even flowing over the road. So that's how localized that storm was in Manawa, so Casey knows all about that, so. So what I'm hearing is you guys are okay with bumping that stuff down into the. What I did is I put it on this, on the backside of the first page. I just put it in there. What I was thinking about doing was adding it to this lifetime list. Or we could just kick it off of there.
I think we should just kick it off.
Okay, I'm okay with that too.
Larry, what do you think? Just kick it off or?
I would, I would like to see it left more
Rustic.
as without expanding it. In being as we kind of learned that now.
Now, what do you?
Yes, yes. I'd take it off.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, what do you think?
I take it off too, yeah.
Okay. So everybody's on the same page.
Yep.
Good. That was the big thing, you know, that was like, you know, I'm kind of a tightwad when it comes to money, you know, and it's just like, you know, I hate to spend a lot of money on something that is gonna be a headache, you know, and I don't know, I think it kind of takes away from what that park is.
Yeah, it's pretty unique and I think we try to maintain that.
Okay.
We don't have to develop every square inch of the county.
Yep. All right, well, I'll keep moving on here. On the first page again, 2026, just some more equipment replacement. And I guess I didn't explain the pricing on like the pickup truck and stuff of the last year, and so I'll just touch on that. I put 8% inflation over 2024 price for that 2025 pickup truck. The last time we bought a pickup truck, it was 30% more than the one before 2 years prior, so for the same truck, you know, I mean, same everything. So I kind of did some numbers on a bunch of other things and it seemed like 8% was a pretty, like on the bottom end of the inflation scale for that 70,000 for that pickup truck. So, but with all the other ones, I always used to use 3% annual inflation to try and get these numbers out there further, you know, and I would always do 3%. It was always pretty close. It kept up, but, not so much anymore. I bumped it, I went up with 5% inflation off of previous, purchases. So each year I increase the price 5%. Hopefully that doesn't follow. We don't have 5% inflation every year for whatever, but right now it's tracking. And so that's why I put that 5% inflation on there, just so if you had questions about where these numbers are coming from. Especially when we go beyond that 5-year plan and we try and project out like 10 years. You look at what a 3/4 ton pickup truck in 2033 is supposedly 103,000, you know? Is that off base? I don't know, you know, so. It's just good for future planning. If you look at each year, you got the total there, we try and even out our hit to the capital budget every year. Somewhat close, sometimes you can't, but if we even it out, then we're not pulling a big surprise. I know Heidi always mentions, you know, like you thinks she has everything lined up and then all of a sudden we need a new communication tower or something, you know, it's a 1.5 million. You know, that blows the whole picture, you know. Our stuff is kind of small fries compared to a lot of that, but it still adds up. So we try to be fiscally responsible. So 2026, we got those 2 pieces of equipment. The docks at Taylor and Columbia, we did some repairs on those, but we would like to do like a major replacement with those, maybe make something better. A little more commercial looking than we've got. But those easements are up and we're gonna be talking about that later. It looks like both the towns are interested in re-upping those agreements. So especially Farmington already signed the agreement, so we'll talk about that in a little bit, but. So we can talk about this stuff more next year, but just wanted to say what's out there. We do have in 2026, we set aside 150,000 to do a Camp Victory shelter and parking lot. I think that's a little light. The way buildings are going, but we'll have to look a little closer on what we actually want to put out there for the type of building. And how big of a parking lot we might need and get some more updated numbers before we do this process next year, so. But it's on the radar, we wanted to get something on the radar so we could get something done out there in the foreseeable future. And the last one on there, and that is a very ballpark number, that 300,000. Tomorrow River State Trail Manawa Bridge project, not sure what a bridge would cost to get across there. We'll get some numbers. We should be able to get at least 50% grant funding for that through the state trail system. But it would be really sweet to be able to connect Manawa to the end of that Tomorrow River Trail. That's been a goal since they started building that trail, so. We've got that out there for 2026. And now all the holdups as far as the political holdups to that are done now. So now it's just a matter of finding money and applying for grants and all that stuff. So that's what that is. 2027, I can kind of go through some of these, but you know, equipment replacement. We booted that North Lake launch upgrade. It was due or was on for 2025. We bumped it down a couple of years and we'll just have to reevaluate if we wanna go full out and do a big slab at that place again, or if we wanna, or for the first time, or if we wanna do something like what's there. Like what's there is those concrete logs that were chained together and pretty inexpensive to maintain. That launch doesn't get a ton of use, it gets a fair amount of use, but I mean, not like, yeah, and there's nowhere to park other than a couple spots, so. I hate to dump a ton of money into that boat launch. So we may just kick that right off the list.
Did the town Chairman, they ask you to take care of the launch for them, is that how that works?
North Lake, I think that one is ours because it's in the right of way and the state owns that little corner
Okay,
next to it, so. We ended up with that, I don't know, I assume that's from back when highways still did parks and all that stuff,
just ask them.
yeah, yeah.
How we end up with it.
Yep, so. What else do we have here? North Lake.
Isn't that north of Iola, North Lake?
Yep. Yeah, right on a county road there.
Yeah.
And it's, most of it's in the right of way. Kind of the same as Big Falls there, you know, we got the launch, but that park is technically not ours, you know, the village owns it. Goofy stuff. Red Horse Barn roof replacement, that number is probably a little light after seeing what roofs are going for here recently, so we'll have to reevaluate all that. Watch trail development, we got almost nobody asking for that, that's why I put, is this project ready yet? It's not really ready. We've got, near the Body Works place there, they donated a parcel they have that ties into that old rail grade. That would be at a parking lot someday. And then, but there's only a couple miles of trail that we could develop on our own.
Where does that go from Wittenberg to Clintonville? What,
It goes up into,
Split Rock?
I guess I'm not sure. It goes up into Shawano County where they've got it as an ATV trail and everything. And then if you follow that arc all the way down, it goes down below New London, you know, and continues on. There's a old rail grade that it follows all the way out there, so.
Is that the one that runs into Oshkosh from like,
No,
no, which one is that?
that's the one that by Medina or something.
Yeah.
That's a
There's a,
different one.
between,
There's a Freedom Trail and there's a few other ones, but. This one is, it's a big picture thing, but do we wanna develop our little part of it and wait for the rest to develop, you know, or do we wait till it gets a little closer before we go and spend a whole bunch of money?
Well, it's kind of like the one at Manawa or New London. Manawa, we're waiting for that railroad to go out to go to New London and keep going.
Yeah,
But then nothing's happened there, and it's
Yep.
like you spend the money on the end, maybe we need to wait with that bridge.
yeah,
It's just-
see, the Manawa thing, that makes somewhat more sense to me because that's going from Manawa, which they got their trails that run around, all the way to Plover, you know?
I get
So
it.
you've got quite a trail system there, you know? It'd be a lot bigger trail system if you get from Manawa over to New London.
London, from New London, you're
Yeah.
going to Green Bay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's on the radar, but this Wash thing, it's been kicked down the road a whole bunch of times, but. You know, we don't have people like, oh, we need to have this, you know, no one's asking for it. And. You know, maybe we put that on the someday list, you know, and just go, I'd hate to spend a lot of money, develop a parking lot. To get you access to a trail that gets you like 3 miles of grade that you could drive back and forth on or ride back and forth on, you know?
yeah.
Don't make sense.
Yeah, I think that's a back burner one.
Yep.
What do you guys think?
Well, another thing too is most of these trails probably need to be all ATV, UTV and snowmobile because the snowmobiles can't, they just, there's no snow anymore. And
Yeah.
that's part of what you're running against.
Yeah, and some of
Everybody
these,
who said, I'm not gonna buy a snowmobile, but those people all bought something else.
Yep.
And that's what's, you know, that's what's happened.
and like the Tamar River State Trail, that one, you can't have ATVs on it. Because of the funding they used, this ICE-T money back in the day,
I know,
it excluded any motorized vehicle other than snowmobile, because the ATVs weren't popular back then, no one would wanna ride those things.
so that may change too.
The ATVs, they're driving on the roads.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep,
That too.
yep, so, all right, now the question is, do you want me to kick that to the lifetime list now, or do you want to wait till next year and bump it down the road further, or? I mean, I could bump it now,
Yeah, I think it's a long way
Yeah.
off.
all right, I'm gonna knock that back
it makes sense for us to.
Shoot the-
Not taking it off, you're putting it on a list, so
Yeah.
you're not forgetting about it.
Yeah.
I'd put it back there too.
I'm gonna move that to the lifetime list. We don't actually have a date. And like I say, situations can change. If for some reason they all of a sudden they get all this right away figured out and you can get from A to B with it, then it makes sense to have a trailhead and then you can get back and forth, but right now it don't. And we had in 2027 yet, we had 25,000 in there for Powers Trail Development. I figured we'd just leave that on there for now, see how far we are when we get to that time. We do have a little money left in the pot for this year yet. We gotta figure out where we're at and see what we could get done this year, this fall, if we got time, so. Spend up the rest of the money we got and go from there. And it could be such a thing, at that time, we'd wanna spend a little more money and make another loop or something, so. 2028, more equipment stuff, that's when our dam inspections due for White Lake and Keller, so I had some money set aside for that. And then Fairgrounds Horse Arena replacement, that's the actual horse arena with the wooden fence around it, that's pretty old. By then, we probably need to replace that, manual boat launch, install fishing pier. Yeah, so,
Now would be time to do it.
yeah, maybe,
If there's still gonna be a pond.
yeah, if they put a dam back, then it might make sense, but
Well, have they decided yet or?
not that I'm aware of. There's a whole bunch of things that gotta happen before they make a decision on what is gonna happen there, if anything, so. That's a ways out, that we don't have any control over that. Our guys did a real good job getting over there right away after the dam failed there and got our docks out of there. We dragged those back to our shop, 'cause they ain't gonna need those for a while, and cleaned up a lot of the mess that was there, and people are bringing us more and more treasures. They're picking out of the muck there and piling them for us. So, yeah, it could be a while. They went out there right away and put a little blast rock at the end of our concrete launch, cause there was a dip. So the last few people that had boats on there could get their boats out without tearing up their trailers. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that river. If they're gonna leave it as a river, or if they're gonna make it a pond again. Either way, we'll be in good shape. We got a really nice concrete launch there. If the pond comes back, so.
Turn it into a skate park.
Yeah. Put a little ramp, people can zoom right out into the lake, or the river there, so. 2039, that's where we bumped that ski trail groomer rig to. This tractor replacement, that's our little John Deere. We use it mostly at the fairgrounds and whatnot. Another mower, tandem stuff, so everything beyond here is pretty much rotation stuff. So we've got in like 2030, we got the rebuild, repave the walking trail, 180,000. There again, probably not enough to do the whole thing, but it's out there. We wanted to have that on the radar. And the rest of the stuff is just equipment replacement stuff. So. Any questions so far on that, the capital budget? Normally this is done in two different meetings, but we didn't have the information last time, so.
And a meeting, we didn't have a meeting.
I think a simple question, that these trails, you got nothing against them, they're all good, but the one we're talking about in New London, I see it all the time coming down the old rail bed, is that right? And then they've been making that a little bit more, I see it all the time, when I drive a truck, I go by it, but then I come through Fremont, or not Fremont, Medina. Is that the same trail? Does that come down?
No, that's the one I was thinking of.
That's the we watched
that
or
one-
whatever.
Yeah, that runs
the
more
way
north
towards
and south,
Oshkosh, or-
yeah. That
'Cause
runs.
I
north
see it
and
all the
south.
way over on Highway 116 and G and all.
Yeah, it goes
Always
a long
going
way.
towards Oshkosh.
goes a long way.
Is that the same one that comes off that rail, comes down, or?
No, there, one runs
That's
east
the
and west,
Newton
yeah.
Blackmore runs basically or straight over to Green Bay.
I guess the one I see in Medina. It looks a pretty heavy trail both
Oh,
ways.
yeah, they use that.
That's
gets
used a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that doesn't go north to the one, the rail bed?
I don't
I don't know if
know,
it's
I don't
connected,
know
I
if
don't
they
know.
connect yet or not.
Last time I biked it, I've biked it all the way to Oshkosh and I've biked it.
From Medina,
Nice
or
trail.
where did you?
Yeah, it's a very nice trail. It
Where
did,
does it go the other way?
it did not, it just stopped. I had to turn around and go back to
And
Medina.
Medina, just,
Yeah.
Right, Medina, that's the end of it?
I'm sure it used to go somewhere, but I don't.
Yeah, it's not connected.
Right at the Medina Mall.
Well, and that's been a few years.
Well, yeah, it's just.
I don't think they've changed it, other than expanded that parking lot in Medina a little.
Yeah,
bit.
they got a bathroom and everything down there now, but
And that stuff's real popular, especially.
it is,
by
that's why I'm just asking is.
The bedroom communities of the.
I got nothing
valley,
against
you know.
these trails, the one they're doing up in New London seems to be.
That rail to
Really
the
moving
south
along
was
nice.
probably ditched too, right?
Yeah.
Cause it's pretty low down
Yeah,
that way.
yeah.
So that's why it's still there. North, probably, they could take the ditches out and make fields out of it.
Right.
That's why it disappeared.
Beautiful
One of
ride.
them guys used to rob that bank in Winchester too, didn't they, or Larson? Took their motorcycles down that trail.
There you go.
What do you know about that?
Yeah.
I sit between two cops.
So we're gonna need a motion and a second and stuff for approval of the capital budget, if you're good with that.
I'll make that motion.
Right now,
Need a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Passes.
all right, and the next is the budget worksheet. So that's the colorful one there, and I'll go through this pretty quick. As you'll see, the 2024 estimated, I don't put a whole lot of value in that, just because that's my guess where we're gonna end up at the year. But the column I like to compare to is the 2024 amended budget. If you follow that column down and then compare that to the farthest right column, the 2025 projected budget there. Those are the numbers that are really kind of important. So that top line where I got like the minus 800 or 8,430, that's the snowmobile and ATV grant. So that goes up and down depending on if we have like a little project or something. So every year that'll go up and down, and but it does reflect in the bottom line of our let me rephrase that. It is in our budget, but there's an expense line to this revenue line that's the same. So we're just a pass through for that. We don't get any money out of it. We don't lose any money from it. So that negative 8,000 something, it doesn't really matter if it changes year to year. It's just whatever the grants are we get from the state. So we don't really have to worry about that. The next one, state conservation aids, we usually get about $2,000 each year that we can put towards some kind of conservation related project. Usually we tie it into something else we're already doing. A couple of years ago, we did the Shaw's Landing. We poured some more concrete by the launch there. We got a couple grand or a little better for that project. This year, we got a little extra money that went to the Powers, the trail development out there. So we may do that again for next year, just to apply for that 2,000, but it's a matching one. So we get 2,000 from them, we gotta spend at least 4,000. So, and we get reimbursed. So we just apply for that every year. And if we do have a project that is bigger than the 2,000, sometimes they will, if some other counties don't take their money, they'll say, oh, well, you can have a little more. That's how we got 5,000 for this year. Violations, we just keep that the same. It seems like it goes up and down. The trend is it's kind of going down a little bit. This year we had when we had all the network problems and stuff, we were pretty lenient on writing citations and stuff because we couldn't do the other end of it, where we actually put it all on a computer and do all the, all that end of it. So we just, we didn't write very many tickets during that. And then, you know, you never know, maybe people will get it someday. You know, but we just estimate how many will get that in that. The next section is all revenue here. These are what we get with the bolt launch fees. If you look over to the left there, the 2022 actual and 2023 actual, 62,000, 65,000. This year we budgeted 59,000. I just copied that same thing over for this go around. It's very weather dependent. If we get a really crappy year where it's cool and whatnot, sometimes you don't hit that mark, but usually you do. The next thing, fairgrounds fees, whatnot, biggest chunk of that is storage. We do get some money for events and all that stuff, but by far, if we were just looking to make money, we would just not have events and just do storage out there. Because it's way easier to do and that you make money off of it every year, so that's where most of that comes from. Winter rec trail, I think what did we get last year? 2023, $94. So you can tell you that you didn't have a very good winter. This year we had 60, 61, 62 already. So that was that week we were open, you know? So, that's not a moneymaker for us. They still have Camp Victory fees and stuff in there, even though we don't camp out there anymore, so. Forestry fund, that's where we actually own the tree planters and whatnot that the DNR rents out on this Hartman Creek. I don't know why it ever ended up that way. The state couldn't run a program like that. So we bought the equipment. They rent it out and then they give the rental fees back to us. It goes into that. And we are responsible for maintaining those things. If they tell us they need, you know, this or that for them, then we, you know, go ahead and have it done. Highway, when they rented the planters there, they in lieu of paying price per tree or acre or whatever they charge you there, they did a bunch of repairs to those planters before they used them. So
A whole bunch of cutting teeth were
Yep.
worn out on them, so we replaced them
Yep.
and then sent spares.
yep. So these guys made it paid for them in that way. So and they needed it. I didn't know they were that bad. So Keller Park camping, you can see the last couple of years about 3,000, 3,900 we got in from that. So far this year we had 1,200 something, so we just left it at 1,500 for now. Same with the fairgrounds. Usually that camping that we get there that's from the carnies. We get a big chunk from them when they're in between places they're going. They'll come there and set up and you get a pretty good chunk of change. They'll rent it for like a week, you know, the whole campground. So that's the revenue stuff. Let's see. Once you get down into expenses here, the first section is personnel services. I don't mess with those numbers. HR does that. And it goes up and down. I circled the one line there where health insurance, you know, last year was 49,000 something and this year is 29,000. So somebody must not have took the county health insurance, you know, I don't know who or what or whatever, but so it looks like we saved a bunch of money, you know, 28,000 less than it was last year, but it could go the other way next year. So you never know. So we don't mess with those numbers. And we'll just go from there. Next section there, contracted services, what did I change here? I bumped down the utility services. I think I'm not sure where that 8,000 came from in 2022 that we paid for that line, but it's been less than that every other year. So I bumped that down a little bit. Telephone went up a little bit. I won't go through the little nickel and dime things. And I'm skipping over a lot of things we didn't change, like oil grease maintenance, that's where we or oil grease antifreeze, that's normally where we charge fuel to. Repair maintenance supply, this is the parks side of it. We got 45,000. That's basically what we have to run the parks for the year outside of grant stuff. So that's what Pete gets to spend this doing all his work. So, and then also includes like our porta potties and all that stuff, which are getting more and more expensive. Insurance, you know, that just creeps up over the years, so I added a little to that. And on the next page, snowmobile trails, this is the expense side of it, so that's just has to match up with what we put in the other side, so it's a zero for the whole budget. Then the next expense section is under the fairgrounds. So we have an employee or 1.5 out of the fairgrounds. And see, this one went up 4,900, you know, and that was just, that's probably just the steps and whatnot in there. Next section there, bumped up the trash and lawn care. I think that's just our garbage service there, fairgrounds. Nothing else. There again, our repair maintenance supply. We've got a couple different ones for fairgrounds. We got a regular repair maintenance supply. That's our normal maintenance budget. Then we have building repair, which we put 10,000 in, and water main light repairs, which we put 10,000 in. And pretty much anytime you dig a hole out there to replace some kind of plumbing or anything, it costs $10,000, you know, so that's why we have those lines in there, and sometimes we don't spend those lines. We try and wait till the end of the year to make sure that we don't have a major emergency or something. And then what we've been doing with those is upgrading inside the buildings if we haven't had an emergency. We've done a lot of the buildings have switched over to LED, and we've done a lot of the outside pack lights and all that stuff is LED, and you get the focus on energy money for that and all that.
My electrical has gone down.
You know, and it's gotta help, but the bills the price per
Yeah.
unit keeps going up, so it probably levels out. Yeah, insurance went up a little bit, like it always does. The last line there, that grants, that's that money we give to the fair for that 20,000, that's what we give to fair for junior fair. Cover all their prizes and all that stuff.
Ribbons and judges.
Yep. And then this a big highlighted section on the last page there, that is operating supplies. That's where that 5,000 was for the horse judge stand or whatever. We didn't put anything in non-capital money there for 2025. So that's why there's nothing for 2025. So if you look at the bottom line, we're 19,000 something less than the 2024 budget, but you know, you got the HR stuff in there, and you know, so we didn't really change a whole lot. We didn't increase anything very much. But when you look at the bottom line, which most people do, we look good, you know, we didn't add a bunch.
Just a quick question, how many people do you employ in your?
Well, what do we got, like 4 full-time?
2 summer help.
Yeah, then, you know, like part of my wages come out of parks, I think 1/3, and then I think 1/3 of Jen's wages come out of parks as well.
So with you, there's 5 in the picture.
Right, and then we have like I think just a 20,000 we set aside for seasonals, so
Okay.
we have that much to spend on seasonals, so. Yeah,
Simple question.
yes,
Does the county fair committee still use rent that little office?
yes,
Okay, I
in the pavilion building, and
just wondered if they were still there or
we're
not.
still charging them $100 a
Well,
month.
I know it's not much.
And we had a little,
I didn't know if they still use it or not. 'Cause
I shouldn't hear that
I
now.
talked to Rich last, I never asked him if he goes over there or not.
Yeah, no,
Anyway, that's all I
Yeah,
wanted.
Closed meeting discussion.
yeah, no, we'll maybe discuss that further in if we talk about rates and stuff, you know. So, but yeah, so that's what I'm proposing for our budget. So this is preliminary. I just need an approval from you guys to move it forward to finance, and then you guys will see it a bunch of other times, but not in this detail. If you have any specific questions, let me know. We'll address them. We can certainly change things before it gets the county board, if you see something that needs changing. But it's pretty straightforward, pretty much the same as last
I
year.
so move.
Okay, we have a motion. Need a
I'll
second
second that.
and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That preliminary budget goes to finance.
Alright. Okay, so the next thing, and I gave you guys copies of the, I think that was in that packet there. The farming, I think I gave just one of the agreements, is it on there?
I think it is. Thought I saw it.
Taylor Lake.
Yeah, so basically that's the agreement. They're the same for Farmington's, we have Taylor Lake and Columbia Lake agreements with them, which are the same except for the names of the lakes. And the town of Farmington wanted to get those on the books signed and everything this year. So they ran it through their town board last month and got it approved. And it is this committee that would approve the agreement. If you're okay with that, it's pretty much the same as it was for the last 20 years. Diane went through this agreement and changed a few things. There was some old references to state statutes that aren't there anymore, and there were some things that didn't make any sense in there. But that's all gone. The town of Farmington has gone through and looked at it. They agreed that yes, we like this agreement yet. Status quo, same thing we've been doing the last 20 years. Basically, there are launches, unless we're doing something wrong, so. What I'm asking you guys is if you're okay with these, continuing on these two agreements.
I guess without reading it, I gotta ask, are we liable then too then? Is that the town's not liable for any?
We have to have
Accept that, so we gotta have insurance, is that what?
yeah, we have to have
Okay,
insurance
that's
for
what I
those.
wanna know.
Yep, and we have been, it was like that for the last 20 years too, so,
Okay, that's the county insurance?
yep, so, and it's pretty reasonable. We don't, it doesn't break the bank when you look at the whole big county picture. So, but yeah, and I guess we're for it. I think it's the best thing for, I mean, it's a lot of work for us, but as far as the public having access to the chain of lakes, having the county operate that versus just on the main part of the chain, there's 2 townships. Now, if those 2 townships had different rules and different fees and whatever, then it would just be that much more of a headache for the public that just wants to come and recreate on the lakes. Having it under our umbrella, there's 1 fee, it's good for all the launches, and we're good, you know. Makes sense. We get the revenues from the boat launches and we apply for the grants to fix up the launches when they need it. So I think it's pretty reasonable. We've kind of built our park system around them, so I would recommend going forward with it.
Yeah, so today we approve this so that it can be sent on to the chair.
Yes, and
This is for the township of Farmington.
yes, the 2 that we have with Farmington, Dayton is looking at theirs yet, but they think they wanna go forward with it.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, so now,
We have a motion, do we have
I'll
a
second
second,
that.
and a second,
Larry.
Farmington.
For Farmington.
Yep.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, it can be moved on to the chair.
Yep, so the next step, and I didn't know if that needed to go through county board or not, but it doesn't. So it just, once this committee approves it, then it goes to the chair to sign.
The sign, yeah.
So. There, that was easy. All right, and then the town of Dayton, I put that on there because I did give them the agreements and stuff, and they are talking about running it past their town board as well. But they weren't in as big a rush as Farmington was for some reason, so. Cause they don't expire, the current ones don't expire till the middle of next year, so. Farmington just wanted to wrap it all up get it done behind them, so. So that's good. So the only update I have for the town of Dayton is that the town has the updated agreements and they've reviewed them and they're gonna act on them sometime in the future here, so. Any questions about that?
All right. Highway 54 bypass trail.
All right, and this again is a short one because I don't have anything new to tell you. We were waiting, Diane's been super busy with all kinds of stuff,
Yeah,
council.
yeah.
So this is very low priority. We've just been maintaining it the way we've always maintained it. And until we get something figured out, the city maybe for the new guys, the city had requested that we sign a new maintenance agreement or an actual maintenance agreement, because we never signed one. To take care of that bypass trail. This committee didn't wanna sign that, and so I sent it to Diane and say, well, what do we do? And there's some question because we've been doing it for so long, you know, there's some question legally stuff, but
But if the county or this committee chose to close any of our other trails, we can just close them.
yep.
So what's the difference?
The difference is this isn't our trail,
Right.
you know, so it really is apparent, you know, like it's.
Right, so we can decide to no longer maintain any trail of
Yep.
ours.
I just thought it would be in good faith with the city for us to continue what we're doing, cause it isn't a lot of work that we put into it. Until this is all ironed out
Yeah,
and we have an official,
yeah,
you know.
and I'm okay
It's
with
gonna
that.
grow, it's gonna get a lot worse, so I think you should back out while we can, that's my feeling.
Oh, yeah.
Right,
Cause they're building,
yeah,
who knows what they're gonna build
Yeah.
next, and that
Yep.
probably be more housing.
yeah, and I'm okay with continuing until we get the
Yeah.
opinion from
Right.
Corp Council.
Yeah.
But
That's
I
good
lean
faith.
heavily on not doing it. As soon as we can
Sure, sure.
pull
And
out of that.
I'm taking in what you're saying, I'm picking up what you're laying down. And we just
And I'm
want-
backing up what he's laying down.
So I'm just, I wanted to get the official, you know, this is the best way to move forward from our corp council, and then we can go, you know.
Does this go anywhere the same way the dog park went or whatever?
They ended up with the dog park, so,
Yeah,
yeah,
That's what I mean, all of a sudden. They keep saying, well, you said okay, well, wait a minute, oh, it's yours.
but the committee didn't say it was okay,
Yeah,
so.
yep, yeah, so. We know what the backstory is, nothing new on that yet, and I will let you know as soon as I know something. All right, updated. Surplus stuff, we sold a few things here just recently on the Wisconsin surplus, 2 trailers. One of them was a 2016, sold it for $3,200. 2007 trailer, they're both car haulers, 2,280, so what are the new one costs, about 7?
About 7.
Yeah, so, you know, basically, we almost got half of the cost of a new one. By selling one that was, you know, 10 years old, so I think that's a,
Paid for
yeah,
54, almost 5,500 here.
yeah, and then, well, that's what I'm saying, by selling 2 of them, yeah, but with just one, you know, so. I think it's a good way to do it, we got a fresh trailer, new paint, new tires, new everything, you know? And we never have the problems, you know, so that's good stuff. We sold that old skid steer that we ended up with from Lakeview Manor. It was the parks at one point, many moons ago, and then like. It ended up with Lakeview Manor for years, they never took care of it, and then we ended up with it, and Jake, one of our guys there, went through and got the thing running and moving and everything, and. We thought we were gonna be able to use it for something, but it just. Yeah, it wasn't terribly useful for us, so we're just like, well, let's get rid of it, and that sold for $6,875, so. All that money goes back into the capital fund, it doesn't come back to our department, but and then the big one, we sold the 2011 F-250, one of our service trucks for $13,900. And that one was one that had some front end problems, it had a little death wobble going on, you know, so. Happy to see that one go away, and we were very upfront and plain with the people, and we said that right in the documents, so we weren't trying to sell anybody something that they didn't know what was wrong with it, so. So yeah, that worked out pretty well, we got like a mower and stuff to sell yet, and
Yep, we got one more yet. Put on.
and I've got for solid waste, I gotta put a whole bunch of dumpsters and stuff on there, so. Just wanted to update you on what happened there.
And the building we sold on there. Are they starting to take it down yet or?
I believe it's done, cleared up. I haven't been out there in 2 weeks. But when I stopped, it was down to, all the logs were piled up, the building was completely down, there was still some pilings. And he was gonna go through and scrape and then just kind of clean up, cause he was using a skid steer. He's like, it doesn't make sense to level all this till I'm done.
Yeah.
Which I agree.
Yeah, and they had a little rain this year.
Well, yeah, that was quick.
Got it down.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty neat. I stopped out there when they had the roof off, but the walls were still standing and they were camping out there and doing the best they could with all the rain. You could barely walk back there. It was sinking in that deep, you know? Like they had a pretty lousy stretch of wet weather.
Oh, good. I'm glad it's.
And it's gonna end up where, do you remember where? It was in some, is it Price County or something?
Yeah, it was way up there.
Yeah, they had some property and they were gonna build it back on their property, so.
Nice.
Yeah. We asked them to send us a picture when they get it all put together.
Yeah.
So. So that was that.
Brings us to supervisor reports. Anybody, any conferences or seminars or nothing? Okay, project updates.
Great.
Take care, gentlemen.
All right,
Casey.
thanks, Casey.
Good seeing you, Casey.
Sit on these, so you know. what other departments are talking about.
Okay, manual boat launch, I had that on there because of the pond thing. Like I say, we've been keeping an eye on things and see what happens. We did have one person request that we put big signs up and telling people to stay out of the river and stuff. It was a blastomycosis and all this. And so I got a hold of Jed from Public Health and said, hey, should we be posting this or something? And he didn't think it was necessary. The city put, keep out signs along the edge of theirs because they got the big mud banks there. I don't think on our side, I don't think anybody's gonna get lost in
Yeah,
the
it's
mud,
hard.
you know,
You can
so.
walk it all the way around.
So, yeah, I just had that on there in case something else popped up about that. Fair preparations?
We got all of our electrical sheds converted and we've added a ton of more 50 amp outlets, which they request more and more. So we've been converting where we can and adding. So that's done. Rabbit building the posts are being replaced as we speak. And hopefully it's done by the end of the week. I called the roofing people for the youth and told them they gotta hold off. I'm just too worried they'll get into it and then it'll rain or
That
something.
youth building, is that metal or is that?
Yeah, it's a
shingle?
metal, and they're gonna replace it with metal. So, they claim it'll only take them 4 to 5 days, but we're just too close. I'm
Yeah.
too worried to.
Best-
It's not leaking now, so we'll get through and then they can come at it. The paving under the grandstands is done, complete, so it looks good. We're doing a little painting under there today, spruce it up a little bit. The rest is just small, minor stuff, we'll get ready. I've been in touch with Rich almost daily to stay up on things.
So do you know if they're doing the county board thing at the fair again this year or not?
I don't know. They always did that on the veterans thing, right?
Right,
Yeah, but I don't know, Jesse ain't running that veterans thing.
right.
So I don't know if we're gonna get an invite or not. So I don't know.
We'll see.
Yep. Have to ask Rich.
They used to do it, I think it was even, they had it in coordination with the fairs of the fair, so it was done on a Thursday. Veterans Day was Friday, but that's when I was involved, so I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. And it was just a good thing for especially new people to on the board to get out there and see all the buildings and stuff and actually what they're used for. when-
Yep.
when you
I'll
call
reach
it
out to
rabbit
Rich and
building.
see if they're doing that. So I would think they'd want to, Yeah, and I guess that's it for project updates.
Next meeting is September 3rd.
I got a question. It has really nothing to do with what we're talking about. I've been asked it and I don't know. With this dam issue in Manawa. Your predecessor. He was adamant about eliminating dams. I remember when I first got on and he brought up like Poisippi and Wild Rose, Soda City. He was so proud he got rid of the dams that he always said he had 2 more to go. Cause if the dams are gone, they want it back to natural, you know, let nature take its case. That's what I've got in my back of my mind, it's nothing to do with those guys here now. Malway issue, yes, they understand, well, why they let that drain or not. But this supposedly back 10 years ago, the dam issue was to get rid of all them dams. And now there's a good chance that what happened there, why let it be built back up? And I don't have nothing against either way.
That's a local issue. The city owns it and,
City and the state.
I think the state wanted to get out of paying for a lot of them dams.
Well,
That's just why in Amherst, they have a pond, the Amherst Bond Association, they formed and they put money in it. And
I
they
think that
paid.
the London's got, not the London,
Yeah.
Clintonville's got the same thing.
I know it.
yeah.
I don't think the state wants to put money in them.
But it's not on the agenda and Diane.
Motion to adjourn.
Alright, Al.
Yeah.
Okay, 10:30. All right, let me stop.
I'm sorry, I didn't look at.